Alright guys, so now we're on to the next drawer. This has all of my palettes, so my face palettes, my eye palettes, that sort of thing. So I'm just going to be going through them and showing you guys what I'm going to be getting rid of. So these are all the palettes that I have in this organizer. The Violet Voss palette is gorgeous. I'm definitely keeping this one. The next palette that I will be keeping is this Cheek Parade palette by Benefit. It has so many different colors in here and it's so gorgeous. So I'm keeping this one. I've never showed you guys this palette before, but this is my Holy Grail palette. I have handpicked each of these eyeshadows from ColourPop and MAC and decided which ones I like the best and put them into this palette. I love this palette obviously because I handpicked each color, so I'll definitely be keeping this. This palette is my Overflow palette. It just has all the eyeshadows that didn't make the cut to get into my Holy Grail palette. So I like some of these shadows, but some of them I just never use. So maybe I'll go through these and get rid of a few of them. Alright, so I'm going to get rid of these two. This is MAC Coppering and this is MAC Bronze. This one's just a little bit too dark for my skin tone, and this one is just, I don't love it. I used to, but I don't think I'm going to be using it anytime soon. So I'm going to pass these both on probably to a friend. And this really cool palette here has all of my blushes. This palette has Tarte blushes, MAC blushes, another Tarte blush, and an e.l.f. blush. I like this palette. I don't think I'm going to be getting rid of any of these. Also, if you guys want to see how I made this palette, this is actually a DIY project, then let me know in the comments and I will show you how I did it. Alright, so in this organizer I just got rid of 2 single eyeshadows. I'm also going to be getting rid of this MAC Studio Fix. This is just a powder and I haven't been using it for a while because I have other powders that I really like, but I will be keeping it for the Back to MAC program. The next organizer that I have just has smaller palettes. So these are all of the smaller type palettes that I have. I have the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette, which is my favorite palette. I'm definitely keeping this one. It's one of my favorites. The Urban Decay Naked 3 palette is also an amazing palette. I really like this one. I'll be keeping that as well. I have the Violet Voss Highlighting palette. I got this at IMATS last year. I haven't used it a ton, but I definitely want to start using this shade. I think it's going to be really pretty. I don't use this a lot, so I need to be more aware that I have this and maybe pass it on if I don't get much use out of it. All of these ColourPop palettes are actually empty. That's because I have them in my Z palettes, but I love these for traveling because they're so sturdy. This e.l.f. palette is a great drugstore palette. It has all matte shadows in here and it's actually really great quality. So I'll be keeping this because I don't tend to have some of these other colors in my other palettes. These are more of a cool tone colors, especially if I'm going for more of a dark smoky eye look. These are great shadows to be using for those types of looks. My Becca and Jaclyn Hill palette is also another palette that I used to love, but I just haven't been getting a lot of use out of it. If you guys have seen my Project Pan videos, you know that I'm kind of struggling with the fact that I should probably give this away to someone, but I like it and it's one of those limited edition things. It was actually way more limited edition because they took it off the market. So it's hard for me to part with it even though I don't use it as often. So I'm going to put it in the decluttering pile, but I may not get rid of it. I may just, maybe if I give it to my sister, then at least it stays in the same house and I can use it if I really want to. So this is the finished box with all of the smaller palettes, and now we're going to move on to my even smaller palettes. So I have another box of smaller palettes. I will lay them out and show you guys which ones I have. Okay, so these are kind of my medium-sized palettes, I guess you could call them. I have the Becca and Jaclyn Hill palette. I don't get a ton of use out of this palette. These 2 highlighting shades are pretty dark, especially if I have a tan. Like, I still don't think that I can use them. These blush shades are gorgeous, but I just don't wear them enough, so I'm probably gonna have to pass this on, even though it's one of those items that as a makeup lover, it's hard for me to part with. I think I'm still gonna have to give it away. This is the Tarte Style by Harouche palette. I actually depotted all of these. I depotted the blush because I was only using the blush, so right now it's just an empty palette. Originally I was going to put a magnet in here and use it as a travel palette, but I have a lot of those, so I think I'm just gonna throw this out. I don't really need it. It does have a good size mirror though, and a good size area, but I think I'm just gonna get rid of it. This is my Kylie Burgundy palette. I really like this palette, but I never ever reach for it. I don't know why. I think that I'm going to get more use out of it in the winter and fall months, especially the fall. But right now, I haven't been loving it, and I don't like that it doesn't have a mirror. It's just kind of inconvenient, so I'm still going to keep it and wait until the fall and make sure I get some use out of it. But for now, I will just wait for that. The NYX Ultimate Cool Neutrals palette is an awesome drugstore priced palette. I believe it's only $20. I like these NYX palettes because they have a ton of shade range and they're actually very pigmented. I'm going to keep this for any drugstore tutorials that I have upcoming in my channel. This is the Tarte Showstopper palette. I really love that blush in the center. Like, I'm trying to figure out how I can depot it. I'm obsessed with depotting blushes and putting them in one big Z palette. That blush is probably my favorite thing in this palette. If I could depot it, I would, but I can't, so I'm just going to keep it in this palette for now. And I might use these shadows. It's a pretty good palette to travel with, but yeah, I just love that blush, so that's why I'm keeping it. Alright, so in this bin I am left with 3 palettes. I got rid of the Styled by Harush, which is actually empty, and the Becca and Jaclyn Hill face palette, which is so gorgeous. It breaks my heart that I have to give this away. This is the last container with all of my palettes. I will lay them out like I usually do and show you all the ones that I have. Okay guys, so let's just start off with this Hourglass palette. This is such a beautiful highlighting palette. I definitely have to keep this one, especially these 2 colors. They're so beautiful. Next I have this Clinique palette. Now don't get fooled. I have depotted blushes and put them in here. These are 2 MAC blushes in Peaches and Cantaloupe. I love these blushes and I love them as a duo and mixing them. So I'm definitely keeping this. I think it's like the cutest little compact, and I actually DIY'd this. That's just a magnetic strip under there. And yeah, so I'll definitely be keeping this one. This is the Tarteist Pro To Go palette. These shadows are amazing. They're so pigmented, especially these shimmery shades. I really love this palette for traveling. Definitely gotta keep this one. This is an e.l.f. blush and bronzer duo. I like this one because they are actually cream products and they're going to be so nice to wear in the summertime, so I definitely have to keep this one. This is a Rimmel face palette. It has a blush, a bronzer, and a highlight. This palette is awesome, especially because it's drugstore. For the payoff that you get, this is actually really awesome, and the fact that you get 3 different products in one, I recommend people who are just starting out in their makeup collection to definitely get a product that doubles or triples the use out of it. So this is an awesome palette. This mini chocolate bar palette I got in a Sephora, I believe it was a Rewards. So this is by Too Faced and it has a bronzer color and 3 eyeshadows. I haven't used this yet. Honestly, I don't know if I will because I just think that I get a lot of use out of my big chocolate bar palette that I may just pass this on to my sister or something. This Clinique eyeshadow, honestly it's cool packaging, but I don't see myself using this ever, so I'm going to pass this on. And this NARS eyeshadow duo, it's just so beautiful. I love these. This is actually in my project pan. I gotta get working on this. I like this, so I'm definitely keeping this one. Alright, so this is my last small palettes container. I got rid of 2 small palettes, the Clinique eyeshadow duo and the Too Faced chocolate bar mini palette, so that's pretty good. So now this is what my palette drawer looks like now that I have decluttered. I think that I did a pretty good job on decluttering considering I wasn't really planning on getting rid of any palettes. So that's pretty awesome, and now I guess we will move on to lips.